Hello and welcome to today's session from Media, Mobiles and Ministry. This is part of a curriculum of over 40 lesson plans covering foundations of media ministry, mobile ministry, social media ministry and do-it-yourself media creation. To find the other lesson plans, go to www.mobmin.org/train. And so this session is Social Media 3, and here we will cover 4 approaches to using social media, drawing out some of the aspects which mean that it can be a valuable part of your wider overall ministry strategy. Making use of it as a stepping stone, if you like, along the disciple-making path of bringing people into a living relationship with God. In Lesson 8 of the Foundations section, the topic of wrapping content in strategy is covered in more detail than we can manage here in today's session. And if you haven't already worked through that, it would be useful to do so, particularly if you are going to make use of the 4th approach, which we cover here. Lesson 8 goes into questions such as: who is your audience? Where are they? And what do you want them to do as a result of interacting with your content? So the 4 approaches are ways that you can use to harness the benefits of social media in your outreach strategy. Each one builds on the previous one to be truly effective. And so we begin by listening, and this is where you take time to listen to your target audience to find out what is in their hearts and on their minds. Social media can also be a place to deepen the relationships which you already have in real life as well as in social media. The 3rd approach is leading, and this is where you begin to place thoughts and spiritual truths into the conversations which you are having. And the 4th approach is where you actually launch your own social ministry outreach. This can be a Facebook page or running a Twitter account specifically for the purpose of reaching out. Listening is key if you want to communicate well. Imagine this scenario. This group of ladies are listening to the one lady talk about what a difficult time her community is having because of an increase in violence towards women. You walk into the room and call out to everyone, "Hey, I've got some great music, let's dance." Do you think that at that particular moment people will want to hear your music? No matter how wonderful the music is, it's not likely that anyone is going to want to listen. Think too about how they are likely to feel towards you, the messenger. You are an interruption, and an unwelcome one at that. But pause and think about this. If you had gone into the room and first taken time to listen to their topic and to their concerns, perhaps you would have shared your music in a different way. And this is what social media listening is about. It means taking time to go to the channels that your local friends are using. If it's Facebook, visit and read their posts. Look for popular pages amongst your target audience. If it's Twitter, find out the topics which are trending in your area amongst your target population and follow those to see what is being said. And please note that this is different from social media monitoring, which is focused on compiling and analysing the data from your social media accounts. So in listening, you are taking time to listen to what is important to your particular population. What are the topics which they are discussing in their own groups? What is it that is on their mind? What are the things that they are talking about? And by doing this, it will give you a deeper understanding of their concerns, of their cares and preoccupations. And this will help you to engage more fully, whether that's in your social media conversations or as you meet face to face with your target population. In that initial stage of building relationships, it can be hard to go beyond the polite hello, how are you, how's your family? But if you already know the topics which people are discussing in their groups, you can prepare yourself to share suitable stories or verses in your interactions with your audience. When you know their concerns and their topics, you are better equipped to then also begin to lead the conversation forward. What do we mean there? Well, if we bring up a topic people are already interested in, we will have a better chance of having an actual conversation about something which they are passionate about, rather than just bringing up a topic which is personal to us. For example, I particularly might be passionate about football. Now that means different things to different people. For some it's American football, for some it's soccer. And so just knowing the language which people are using is very helpful too. When we move into the spiritual domain, we might be particularly focused on the topic of forgiveness for sin, but where does that mesh into the conversation which people in your context are having perhaps about purity? And so it is useful to know the topics which your audience are concerned about. Listening also helps to identify leads and potential seekers. If you are listening to their conversations, you hear the people who are already asking questions, and so identify people who are already showing a spiritual interest, and it helps you to identify the people that you can be investing time and energy more intentionally in your relationships with them. It also helps, particularly as an outsider, for you to identify those who are leaders and people of influence who could help to advance your ministry. For example, as an outsider, I don't really know this man on the right here. Is he apart from the others because of his higher status, or is he simply on the margins of society? Listening should always be part of the survey phase of developing a ministry. Some of the things to search for would include, for example, your name. Now I know that may sound odd, but when you come as an outsider, it's always helpful to get an understanding, an insight into what people from that community are saying about you. How are you being perceived? The same would be true for your organisation's name. What do people know about you and your ministry? And again, for other related organisations' names. Take time also to explore the topics and the phrases that fit your mission and your work. Find out what people are saying. Perhaps if you want to have a focus on prayer, what are people in your context saying about prayer? The lesson 5 in the social media ministry section takes this whole topic area of listening and learning much further than we have time to do at this point, and so it would be well worth investing the extra time to check that out. A Facebook ministry from the Middle East began by searching out the leaders and the topics which were trending in their area. This gave them an understanding of what people were already talking about, and equally important, what the inside influencers in that society were saying about these topics. So they learned a lot about the positives and the negatives of people's daily lives, and so were better able to relate to their audience and to engage with them, because having understood where they were at, they were able to have a much more informed conversation with people. And so the second approach of deepening, this is where you purposefully engage with your existing social media contacts. You show interests in their life. You work to grow closer by asking questions and engaging with what they are already posting. You can also begin by sharing truth and scripture and look at their responses to what you are sharing. And this will help you to gauge the level of your contacts' personal spirituality and their level of spiritual receptiveness. This also carries over into real life. It helps you to be better equipped to take your conversations to a deeper and to a more spiritual level. You want to be able to go beyond the surface level of social media likes and follows to get to heart issues, the subjects that people want to sit and discuss over a cup of coffee. And this kind of interaction takes time and effort, as well as sincerity on your part. And the third approach is leading. This is where, after taking time to listen and to deepen relationships, you would then be in a good place to begin actually leading conversations. This is where you begin to set the agenda based on what you have already learned about your target audience and also on the hope which the gospel brings. You begin to draw in new contacts and grow your following. By now you should have a clear idea of the steps it will take for people to move through the process of being open to the gospel, then interested, and on to a place where they are living as believers in a growing relationship with the Lord. Here you are purposefully connecting and engaging with online contacts via social media and developing face-to-face conversations to minister to your target audience. You are creating content and shaping conversations specifically with your audience and their faith journey in mind. What action steps will people be asked to take? Are you looking to draw them into a one-to-one dialogue? Do you have a group that they could join? Is it time to move to a more secure platform? Are face-to-face meetings possible? And how do they begin to live and function in their community as a believer? What are some of the challenges or barriers, if you like, which your audience need to overcome to become followers of God's Word? These barriers may be cultural. For example, you may be in a situation where there is a strong majority faith and everyone is very visible and very proactive in living out their faith. It may be difficult for a new believer to go against that tradition. It may be a young person in a family where they are finding themselves having to go against the family pattern. Or it may even be that you are asking someone to step away from a sinful pattern. You may have someone who has been earning their living through stealing, for example. And so this is a barrier which they will need to overcome. Truth Media Ministry work to reach hurting people, and one of their team writes, one of our ministry goals is to make sure that we create relevant and responsive content. This includes articles, videos, social media posts that are so engaging that our readers are compelled to respond. Lately, we have been working on our Facebook page for our newest evangelistic strategy called Issues I Face. In that group, we've been sharing stories, links and images and inviting the social media world to engage in conversation with a mentor. Here's a story from their ministry. This is Mary's story. And so they write, she began to leave comments on posts, and so a worker reached out to her and began a spiritual conversation. The writer says, we had a lot in common. We have the same faith background, and we both unfortunately struggle with depression. Through email, I learned that she has a relationship with God and a prayer life, although the darkness of her depression makes her feel afraid that she has turned her back on God and that he might be angry with her. I'm doing my best to pray with her daily and to encourage her that when we call out to God in our pain, that too is a form of prayer. That God not only hears but relates to our struggles. And she goes on to mention the action step which she encouraged Maria to take, and that was to do an online daily Bible study. Here are 2 potential action steps which you could take. Firstly, you might see someone who is posting questions, and if you have a group available that you can invite them to join, that would be your first option. It may be that you see someone looking for more information and a group might not be possible, but you could invite them into a one-to-one conversation. Give them the option to dialogue at a deeper level. You may also find yourself dealing with people who come to you. They find what you are sharing on social media or out in the community, and they begin to interact with it. How are you going to respond to that? It may be that they are genuinely seeking. It is also possible that they are a danger and a threat to your ministry. So you need to be prepared for that. How will you respond to these people, and how will you ensure that their intentions are honourable, if you like? And so the 4th approach is actually launching your own social media outreach, whether that's a website, a Facebook page, or a Twitter account aimed at outreach. And so this basically brings together the 3 previous approaches of, first of all, listening to take the pulse so that you're better equipped to begin your social media strategy. So you're monitoring those conversations, you're exploring through Google Alerts and searches on social media. So the next step is building community. For example, if you're going to start a Facebook page, how do you anticipate drawing people into that page? Is it going to be through word of mouth, just letting your friends and your contacts know that you have a page? One of the things which we did when we started our first page was that we did the small business cards and took those to the regular market and distributed them there, and found that quite effective. Are you going to use another channel? Follow us icon on a website? Are you going to do it through announcements on the radio, or just sharing in churches and small groups? There are a variety of approaches which you can take. You can also look to see if there are other like-minded organisations who might help to drive traffic towards your page, to your outreach. Broadcasting, getting your content out there. Again, from your earlier listening, you should be able to work out which approach will work in your particular context. In Facebook, is it going to simply be status updates or group discussions? What is it that is engaging for your particular audience? If you're using Twitter, what kind of tweets are people typically following? Content, what are the subjects which interest your audience? How will you serve it up? Will it be text? Will it be pictures? Will it be videos? A combination of all of those? Different platforms will have different balances of how you should present your content. Facebook give a helpful 70-20-10 balance, and so they suggest that 70% of your content should be adding value to your visitor's life. 20% is about connecting and building your relationships, and then 10% can legitimately be building up your page and self-promotion. The action step is a vital component. So what is it that you want people to do after viewing your content? In a faith journey, we need more than likes. We're aiming to draw people closer to God. So request a Bible could be an appropriate action step. Join a study group, meet for prayer or fellowship. And how will they take that action step? That is something which also needs to be thought out, keeping your particular situation and the security setting in mind. Will they do it via a website link? Will there be a phone number to call, an email to send to, or perhaps even a physical address to meet up? And so that brings us through to the action steps for you to be taking. We encourage you to begin by choosing the platforms which are appropriate in your setting, and to begin by doing some listening to the topics which are of interest to your audience, but also spend some time learning how you and your ministry are perceived by your target audience. And then what will you do with that information? What will be your goal in engaging with someone online? Think too about the follow-up and the action steps for those who engage with you. And then take time to, if you see that it's appropriate in your situation, to actually begin a social media strategy. So beginning again with your listening, building that community, broadcasting, thinking carefully about the content which will be suitable and when and how to post, and the action steps which will bring people along through that faith journey. So thank you for your time, and I would just like to encourage you to see what is appropriate in your situation and to see how you can harness the benefits of social media in your context. Thank you.